Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the All Good Media Podcast, a podcast that explores the nature of human experience. I'm your host, Solomon Harvey, and each week we have a new guest on the show, and we talk about what it is that drives people to do what they do. Today on the show we have Blake Bowman, and we're going to be talking about how you can optimize your health with a myriad of different health modalities, like, whether that's improving your posture through movement or biohacking your life using herbs and other medicinal things like mushrooms. We'll be talking to Blake about how he forages his own medicine here in northern Michigan, as well as some of the top 5 things that you can do to take control of your health today. Now, this being the first video podcast that I've ever created, I would say the angles are not ideal, the lighting could have been better. I even forgot to turn on the soundboard for the first third of this podcast, but nevertheless, I learned a lot throughout this process, and I really appreciate Blake for being on the show and sharing his wealth of information with us. So definitely check out Blake in the link below. I've got links to all of his different resources, as well as subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the episode. Dude, this is awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
This is the first video podcast, so let's hope it turns out. If not, we'll have great audio. So
Indeed. Most important part.
Exactly. And you have recently started your own podcast. How has that been for you, starting up a podcast?
It's been great, man. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It's a great way to connect with people that you otherwise wouldn't really, oftentimes talk to. So It's a cool way to network, have cool conversations, and learn from some awesome people.
Yes. Well, I typically like to let people introduce themselves, same as you, and so I thought that would be a good place to start, just because we all introduce ourselves differently, and I did write an introduction for you to kind of gear this conversation up, but I think I'll either record it later or we'll scrap it for now.
All right.
How do you typically introduce yourself?
Well, I guess it depends on what the context is, but if we're speaking professionally, my name's Blake Bowman, and I run a company called GuerrillaZen Fitness. We're an online health and wellness brand, and we pretty much teach people how to take control of their health and bring their power back to their own hands and arm them with all the strategies and information that they need so that they can empower themselves and not be reliant on other people. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I run that company. That's my brand, GuerrillaZen, GuerrillaZen Fitness. Just moved up here to Petoskey from downstate. Love it here.
It's beautiful, right?
Yeah. Can't wait for the summer and spring, summer, fall,
Yeah, and you provide coaching for people. You've got a wealth of information on YouTube with nearly 140,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is just incredible. You've got an Instagram that you update all the time, and all under GuerrillaZen, is that right?
Yep. Yeah. All under GuerrillaZen. Big on YouTube. Uploaded videos there for like 5 years. Just started more recently on Instagram, but that's growing as well. So
nice.
Put educational content out on both of those areas. Everything from, posture correction to exercise to fix injuries to, using herbs for anxiety, biohacking stuff. I kind of go into a variety of different areas of health and wellness in terms of how I educate people and what I talk about.
Well, I love what you said on your website about health being kind of an enigma.
Yes.
Can you describe that a little bit more? It's kind of what you're saying of it being such a broad scope of things, whether it's posture or herbs. What do you mean by that when you say it?
Yeah. Well, I think the heart of what we're really talking about here is what can be defined as holistic health and holistic health philosophy. And really what that means is that there is not, health is a multifactorial equation. There are many, many factors that go into creating a state of health or go into creating a state of ill health. There's not one thing that you're going to do that is really going to have a profound impact. It's a variety of things that you're going to do. You can't just look at nutrition and get on a diet while excluding other things like exercise or quality of water, right? So health is not very simple, because there are so many factors involved in it. People like to believe that it's as simple as eating healthy, whatever that means to them, and exercising, right? Eating healthy and exercising, that's a healthy lifestyle. Those are two factors of myriad factors that go into making a healthy lifestyle. But, even if you're doing those two things, if you have horrible relationships in your life,
right.
You're living in an EMF, which is electromagnetic field, polluted atmosphere, your air quality is crappy, your water quality is crappy, you have financial stress, you have mental stress, on top of that you have, all these other things going on, then your lifestyle, you're not living a healthy lifestyle, despite, eating healthy and, exercising. So, what I mean by that on the website is, it's not as, black and white as people want to believe. I wish it was that way. Mm-hmm. But if it was that way, if it was as simple as just everybody needing to, eat healthy and exercise, then we wouldn't have, the myriad chronic diseases that are plaguing us as humanity in every country. We wouldn't have morbid obesity, because and the reason why we have these things is because it's just not as simple as, exercising and eating right.
Right. Well, for is that there we go.
It's just going to keep doing that.
Perfect. That's okay. So for going back to your roots, kind of your beginning, before you got into this, what would you say for our listeners out there that are trying to sort of take control of their health, maybe the top 3 things that they could do? Because it is a complex world, and I think that is what can hinder people from taking action, because they get online and you can literally confirm or deny anything just by looking it up. What would be the top 3 things that people could do in 2019 that would get them on track?
Well, top 3 is hard, but I definitely know top 1 would be to just hire a coach. Somebody that's been there and has studied this stuff, right? If you hire somebody, who's been studying holistic health philosophy and is aware of all these things that I kind of just, talked about a second ago, somebody that's been studying that for 10 years has 10 years of accumulated time and research studying one thing, and they can bring you up to speed on that in the span of a week.
Right. Because it's going to be different for each person, too.
Yes.
Right. They can look at you.
Yeah, and the main advantages of that is, if somebody hires me, for example, I can distill 10 years worth of subjective, research and self-experimentation and objective, certifications and everything that I've learned. I can distill all that knowledge and structure into their routines in the span of a week. If they try to do that by themselves, by doing the research themselves, the information's out there. Anybody could do that. However, it's going to take you 10 years.
You've done it, right?
Yeah, and you might not have that much time, too, right?
True.
You have pressing health issues, that are detracting from your vitality. You oftentimes can't afford to continue down that same route for 10 years while trying to figure out what you need to do to, change the direction of your life. So one thing that you can do right away is hire somebody to work with you and teach you, all the things that you need to be doing, show you your weak spots, and have somebody work with you and be in your corner, right? Just for anybody listening to this, that's like the first step to begin, and, since we're speaking in like vague generalities here, and I don't know specifically who's listening to this, I would say that is probably the most important thing.
Right.
Reducing down other things, would be hard without knowing like specifically what that person was dealing with.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing too would be like coming back to the basics, right? Like, so many people know how important it is to stay hydrated, for example, and to get a lot of sleep. But people still ignore these things, and they look for like higher tech solutions when they're still not, drinking enough water. There are over 1 billion different biochemical reactions that happen in the body every second. And those are all dependent on water, right? Our body is mostly composed of water. Your lymphatic fluid, which is 3 times more abundant in your body, which processes cellular waste, is also mostly water, right? And your body's trying to replenish these, it's trying to use all this water from different, biochemical processes and different biochemical reactions, cellular regeneration and repair and stuff like that. And if you're just off there, you shouldn't even consider anything else. If you're not adequately hydrated, even the prospect of exercise is already beyond what your body and physiology is ready for, right? You got to look at it like a pyramid. There are certain things at the base that need to be laid down as a foundation before you ascend up the pyramid and start adding these other steps, supplements, medications, really crazy things like light therapy devices and stuff like that. Before you even get to any of that, you have to make sure that your bases are covered. And people are aware of these things oftentimes, but they just don't put them into practice.
I feel like you're touching on like a lot of misconceptions that people have because they want a quick fix, or they want to go after the next thing that's going to solve this problem, where that can cause a whole myriad of other problems. And so assuming that the average listener of this podcast, or people that are coming across this information for the first time, other than hydration, top five things.
Just top five, like,
so
lifestyle
hydration, exercise.
Yeah, okay, so hydration, some form of movement every day, whether that's going for a walk, a hike in the woods, doing yoga, lifting weights, any kind of movement, at least 20 minutes of that a day. That would be the second most important thing. The third most important thing would be to have some quiet reflection time, or something that's going to basically bring you into a meditative state of awareness, right? And that could be fulfilled, while you're doing your exercise oftentimes. Like for me, going for a hike in the woods kind of serves two purposes of, one being exercise and one being like a mindfulness kind of reflection time. But it's very important that you have quiet solitude time every day to reflect and meditate and bring more, awareness and consciousness to your life and your meat suit, bring more energy into your meat suit. So, and reflect on things. This has been proven to be extremely beneficial for your health on a cellular level, and also in terms of what it does to your brainwaves, specifically meditation, right? So what have we discussed here? Hydration, exercise, some sort of movement, some sort of mindfulness routine. It's very important too that you manage and really eat a well-rounded diet that's specific to you. And that's going to be different for your physiology, your ancestry, and also myriad other factors like what your microbiome looks like, which is your gut bacteria. But for the most part, in terms of general nutritional guidelines, you need to be eating non-GMO and organic, preferably local food as much as possible. The fact of the matter is, the conventional food supply, if you buy food from at the grocery store and it's not specifically labeled organic and non-GMO, project verified, anything you buy from a restaurant is GMO and is not grown organic, which means it's grown with pesticides and fertilizers. And while the nutritional profile of the food from conventional crops compared to organic crops might be comparable, the conventional crops are coming with the additional toxic load of all these pesticide residues and all sorts of stuff like that. So you're really these things are ubiquitous in the health supply, or in the food supply nowadays. And I think that this is a major reason why there's so many chronic illnesses that so many people are dealing with, and there's such a, poor general health outcome of many people, is because they're not eating organically. And if you're trying to have an optimal diet nowadays, it has to be organic, and it has to be non-GMO, project verified, preferably wild and local stuff as much as possible. And I'm just talking about living an optimal life here. You can survive by eating conventionally grown foods, but if you're trying to feel the best that you can feel and perform at the best that you can perform, have the clearest mind that is within your capacity, then there's no other way to do it other than by ensuring that all the food that you're eating is organic and non-GMO.
You guys heard it from the man who's done it, and you're living it.
Yes.
And so that's 4.
Yeah, so what do we say here? We said hydration, movement, mindfulness, and food. Yeah, another one, I guess there's many more. You could keep breaking this down, but another one that I think is really important that is oftentimes overlooked with regards to its impact on physical health is the quality of your relationships, as well as, the quality of your emotions and the quantity of those emotions, right? We know that when you feel certain emotions, you actually have an effect on your genetics, right? So there's this field called epigenetics, which is the study of how genes are expressed, right? And what that means is, just because you've been given a gene for something doesn't mean that that gene is going to be turned on, right? So if you have a gene for breast cancer, for example, which many women do, that doesn't mean that you're going to get breast cancer, because you can keep that gene turned off through healthy lifestyle choices. And conversely to that, you can turn on those cancer genes, which are called oncogenes, through poor lifestyle habits. And exercising and eating organic are great ways to ensure that you're not turning on your bad genes and keeping your good genes turned on. But another one of those factors that really regulates genetic expression is like your mental attitude and the emotions that you experience on a day-to-day basis. If they're mostly negative, then you are going to be upregulating the expression of all these bad genes, and you're going to be downregulating the expression of these health-promoting genes. So essentially, by feeling depressed all the time or being around people that make you feel crappy, you're setting yourself up for a state of disease. So it's not so easy to just tell somebody that's depressed to not be depressed anymore, but there are certain stimuli in their environment that they come in contact with on a daily basis that are likely causing them to react in either a beneficial or a negative way. Mm-hmm. Whether that's the relationships that they have with their family, the relationship with their spouse, any kind of financial stress or anything like that. These things need to be taken care of, right? So that you can make sure that you're feeling good. Because if you're feeling good in your mind, you're sending a signal via your nervous system to all of your cells, and they're going to feel good too. Then your genetic expression is going to be optimized, right? So you got to take time to do things that bring you happiness, things that bring you joy. You have to reflect consistently, daily, on things that you're grateful for, right? Like live every day like it's Thanksgiving. Be grateful to be alive. Every time you eat some food, be grateful for that. Gratitude is a super powerful regulator of your genetic expression. The more grateful you can feel, the healthier your body is going to be. So it's important to do those things and do whatever you need to do that facilitates joy and feelings of, wellness and happiness in you. Right. And that looks different for everybody. But it's important to do that. Obviously, some people listening to this would be like, well, whiskey makes me happy. There's always that guy out there that would say something like that.
Maybe he's defying the laws of...
Yeah. Obviously, you want to look at it if it's adding to your life force or not. Right. Whiskey might bring you happiness, but it's also, it's wreaking havoc on your health in other areas. So these things that bring you happiness, preferably select ones that are also going to be healthy for you. Mm-hmm. And I think we all know that, drugs and drinking alcohol is not good for you. So, other things other than that, I think would be really good. But yeah, these are some base level things.
Very general.
Yeah. And some of those things, especially what I just talked about at the end there, is not something that, people oftentimes think is super important, right? A lot of bodybuilders and CrossFitters and stuff like that. I know a lot of these kind of people globally, and they're super obsessed with their training and their diet, right? And that's where they place all of their focus with regards to improving their health. But their relationships are in shambles. Every other facet of their life is in shambles, and as a result of that, they are, in a state of ill health, despite all the exercising and despite all of the nutritional focus that they're placing on themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you breaking that down for us, just because I feel like the average listener doesn't always come in contact with things that are going to see that, in that form. Mm-hmm. I'm not explaining that very well, but this is when I forgot everything I was about to say because I realized that the audio had not been turned on. So that was pretty funny. Sorry, Blake, but the audio is awesome from here on out. When you are in an environment that doesn't support you, you don't necessarily see your way out of it. And so that's why a coach is so important, because you can see the elements that may or may not be revealing themselves.
Yeah, that's why they're called blind spots.
Right.
Because you're blind to them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We as objective beings can always see, where somebody else is messed up in their life, but we can never really, clearly see where we're messed up personally, because we're blind to our blind spots, right?
Right.
So again, having a coach, somebody that can maybe bring to your awareness that your relationship is abusive and it's not empowering you, and your partner is not supporting of you. Maybe you didn't know that. Maybe a coach can help you see that, which in the end, if you take action about, you can profoundly shift your state of health.
Right. Yeah. Well, so my question then would be, how do you prepare yourself for each day? And what does your morning routine look like as somebody that has, you've got these dialed in and you've taken it to the next level? What would be a typical morning for you? Or what is a...
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So you're like, what you do on a, all of our outcomes are just based off of our actions, right? And all habits and routines are repeated actions. So therefore, your habits, whatever you're doing habitually, whatever you're doing routinely, is going to dictate the results that you get in life. So having a morning routine or an evening routine or any kind of daily routine that you do every single day that you've consciously and strategically created for yourself, if you're sticking to it and you're doing it consistently, that is a major tool to set you up for success in every area of your life, whether that's a professional endeavor or some sort of effort to improve your health. And oftentimes all of those things are tied together, and they're inseparable from one another. But yeah, I've studied a lot of different practices and things that you can do, including meditation and breathing. And I've just consolidated them all into, one morning routine that I do with my girlfriend, Kira. And this is what I also teach my clients to do. But it pretty much starts the night before. So I use this journal called the Self Journal, which is right over there on my book there.
Top book?
Yeah.
Nice.
That book is it's a planner, but it's also a planner that has like reflection exercises built into it. So every day when you're planning the next day, tomorrow, you reflect on this day. You write down 3 things you're grateful for that day. You write down 3 wins you had, whatever that means to you, and you write down 3 lessons that you learned that day, right? And that gets you to reflect on your day, take something away from it that's tangible, and it also invokes that state of gratitude too that we were talking about, right? So it's just like playing into the day every day. You're going to feel grateful at least once when you're filling that page out, right? And then you plan out the following day, right? You don't want to plan out your day and write your to-do list the day of. In my experience, it's always better to do that the night before, right? So I always say the morning routine kind of starts the night before when you're planning your day out. And the reason for that is when you end the day, you're going to be so much more clear as to what you need to do the next day, because you'll just have finished, the previous day's tasks. You'll know what you were able to do, what you weren't able to accomplish yet. You'll know the stuff that you still need to do moving forward. So it's just easier and more effective to plan it out the night before. Plus, it saves you time in the morning to go through your morning routine if you don't have to write down a to-do list. Okay, so I usually will plan out the day the night before. And then when it comes to the morning routine, it really consists of this. I'll sit down every morning before I do anything, and I'll put in my headphones and I'll put on this track called, or I'll put on an app called Brain FM, which is a brainwave entrainment app. And basically what that means, it's an app that plays certain like music through your headphones.
I'll link it in the description, but it's a free app.
There's a free trial. It is a paid app. You get
okay.
I think you get like 14 listens to any track of your choosing before you have to start paying.
Maybe I'm paying for it and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, you probably are if you downloaded it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you used over the certain thing. But yeah, there's basically this was created by neuroscientists, and it's long story short, when you put these headphones on, it changes your brainwaves. And if you listen to the meditation track, it puts you into a deeper state of meditation faster. So I'll sit down and I'll put these headphones in, I'll listen to this track.
from there, what I'll do is I'll open my journal and just simply review the, what I wrote down on my to-do list the night before, right? So I'm not creating it. I already created it the night before. I'm just reviewing it and bringing it, back into my awareness so that I'm aware of what I need to do that day. And then at the beginning of that, once I review that too, the self-journal, which is the planning system that I have, it's a book, schedule, to-do list kind of thing. It also has those similar exercises that you would fill out in the morning. So I'd write 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning, as well as my 3 like big rocks, 3 things that I really want to focus on that day that are like mission critical for me, most important for me. So I'll write those in and I'll review my to-do list for today, and then I'll close it. The whole time I have that Brain FM app on with my headphones in, I'm listening to the meditation tracks. From there, I'll simply just close the self-journal and I'll sit there and do like a mindfulness meditation for like 10 to 15 minutes. So people always overcomplicate meditation. People that have never meditated before, like, think you have to sit in a certain posture or pose or chant something, or those are all types of meditation, but really, you can just honestly just sit there with the Brain FM app in. You're going to get benefits from that. Even if your mind is active, the app will actually change your brain waves. But there are myriad things you can do when you're meditating. People often usually do some visualization. Like, I'll visualize light coming down from like the sky into my head and just like filling my body with this like healing light energy. And I'll just try to hold that visualization in my mind's eye throughout the meditation. And, your mind will drift off somewhere. You'll think about stuff you're going to be doing at work. You'll think about some issue or fight you got into with your husband or something like that. Those thoughts will come in, you'll get distracted, and you just kind of gently bring yourself back to, whatever you're visualizing. And you don't beat yourself up for it, right? You don't get like upset that you aren't able to focus on meditation. You just kind of gently bring yourself back. The more you meditate, the easier you'll be able to hold that meditation. But that is what I'll do. So I'll sit there for 10 to 15 minutes after reviewing my to-do list for today. And then once I'm done with the meditation, I'll still have the Brain FM track going. And at that point, I will whip out a little pack of affirmation cards that I've made for myself, which are affirmative statements that either remind me of my goals or invoke some sort of feeling of gratitude again. Right? Because gratitude, like I said, is one of those most powerful emotional regulators of your genetics, right? So on these cards, I'll have statements written in the affirmative, and also written in like the possessive tense, as though I already have these things or I've already achieved these things, even though I haven't yet. And the reason for that is that basically tricks your nervous system. If you keep telling yourself that you have something and you feel grateful for having it, and you imagine that you have it, and you involve all your senses, and you like visualize yourself having the thing, that actually makes your nervous system believe you actually have the thing that you're desiring, and that creates the conditions in life and out in the world that are actually going to bring that thing to you more easily, right? They call that like law of attraction, or law of attraction, or the secrets, or anything like that. It's pretty much how it works. It's manifestation. So if your goal was to like lose weight or something like that, you could write down on your card, I'm so grateful that I lost 20 pounds through my, efforts in the last month. It feels great to be at this weight. Say that, but don't just say it, experience it, right? Internally, attach emotion to it, attach feeling to it, attach as many senses as you can within your mind to it, and really make yourself feel it. Affirmation cards don't do anything if you don't, actually feel these emotions, and you don't really kind of internalize it on a deep level. So I'll like flip through my cards like this in this manner, and I could talk more about that if we want to, but I'll do that, and I'll spend about 30 seconds on each one until I'm done, right? One of my favorite ones too, which my girlfriend got engraved on a watch for me, is my body is healthy, my mind is brilliant, and my soul is tranquil. So I'll just like say that in the morning. And
I love that.
And by the time you get to this point in the morning routine too, you're going to be about 12 minutes in, right? This whole thing it's about 15 minutes. It takes you, 1 to 3 minutes to review your to-do list for today and maybe write some notes in there. And then it takes about 10 minutes to do the, meditation. So at this point, you're only like 12, 13 minutes in. It takes about 2 minutes or so to review these cards. And, this is what I'll do. And then pretty much when I'm done with that, I'll start my day. And there's some variations to that. Like recently we've been doing Wim Hof breathing in conjunction with that, like at the end of everything, which is a really crazy type of like deep breathing practice that Solomon knows all about.
Yeah, but assume people don't. I mean, Lance and I talked a little bit about it in the last episode.
Yeah, it's just like really deep breathing followed by holding your breath. You do this for different rounds. But those first three things, the reviewing of the to-do list, which you have done the night before, the meditation with the Brain FM, and the reviewing of these affirmation cards is a powerful routine that anybody can get into that's really going to prime their day for success in any endeavor that they have. And I want to make note too that, obviously and it is not so obvious with like hippie people, but affirmation cards don't do anything if you're not taking massive action along with them, right? You can't just like say, oh, I'm so grateful to have lost 20 pounds and then just sit on your ass the whole day and not do anything, you need to do both. You need to do the affirmation, make your body believe it's happened, although it hasn't happened. And then you need to go out in the world and take action in accordance with that statement. So you need to, be healthy. You need to train your body. You need to move around. You need to exercise. You need to drink water. You need to eat healthy food. So it's about taking action with that. But a lot of people will just try to take action without the affirmation. And that just makes it harder to acquire whatever goals it is. If you do them both in tandem with each other, you can really bring a lot of things into your life, whether that's more money, better relationships, better state of health, whatever it is.
And has this evolved over time, or did you start doing this priming morning routine at a certain time, working with a coach of your own, or you developed it yourself? Or it's evolved over time for sure. I learn a lot of different things about this kind of stuff. I've been to many personal development conferences and books and stuff like that, Tony Robbins types of events. I learned a lot of this from there, and I've basically just like pieced together. I mean, obviously Wim Hof breathing is not like related pull
to
what you want.
Yeah. I pulled what I wanted and what I found value from in different practices and from different teachers. And I just kind of mushed them all into one like hybrid routine, which is sort of what I just described.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the process of writing your affirmations.
Yes.
Let's tell our audience a little bit more about how they could write their own. So what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's good websites that you can consult on how to write affirmations, but like common mistakes that, like I said, it has to be written in the affirmative as though you have it now, right? And you never want to write it in the so it has to be written in the affirmative and in the present tense, and never negative. So
because I feel like people are applying it already. When you're describing that, it's just like, it's so true. You worry about the thing you don't want. You think about it all the time.
Well, your
you
subconscious mind,
you feel it, and then you have it, right?
Yeah, your subconscious mind really only picks up on like nouns, right? So if you wanted to lose weight, like I said, in affirmation, like, I am so grateful that I have lost 20 pounds through my efforts this, in the last 2 weeks or whatever. That would be a good one. Something that would not be good was I don't want to be fat anymore, right? Because then your body or your subconscious mind is really just hearing fat, fat.
Yeah.
Right? It is hearing that, and it's bringing more of that, thing to you, because that's how the subconscious mind works. It's very mysterious, right?
Right.
So you want to be very careful with the thoughts that you have every day, right? I one of my mentors called affirmations mind vitamins, right? So just like you would take vitamins to ensure that your body is healthy, you could take affirmations every morning to make sure your mind is healthy. And these are just intentional thoughts that invoke certain, states of emotion within you that are in accordance and alignment with your goals. But yeah, I mean, other than writing it in the present tense and possessive tense as though you have it, and the affirmative, that's really all you need to do. And then the rest of it comes down to the execution and whether or not you're really able to elicit the feelings of those things and really believe it. Because if you actually don't believe it, if you're just saying, oh, I'm so glad I lost 20 pounds in the last month, but you're like on the inside, you're just like, you know it's not true and you think it's a lie, then it's not going to have any effect, right? So you have to actually believe it, and then you got to follow it up with action too.
And I think if people, you know, if you tune into how you're feeling, your emotions will reveal to you if it's feeling like it's real or not. You know, it's you can tell when you're feeling wishy-washy or you're going one way and then you completely fall back into your old routines, and it's just working your way up and, you know, retraining your brain. And
yeah, man,
I love it. Yeah. So these are great steps for anybody out there that wants to, you know, do what they can, but to only, you know, a certain extent. And so I want to kind of go back to the coaching a little bit. How long do you think a relatively, I mean, I guess it just depends for each person, but say somebody's interested in coaching, how long are you typically working with your clients?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I work with my clients for anywhere between a month and 6 months typically.
Okay. On a weekly basis or multiple?
Yeah, it depends on like what kind of agreement we have, because the more frequently I meet with clients, the more I charge them for my services, because it's taking up my time and resources. But yeah, I have pretty much constant correspondence going back and forth between my clients. I usually use this app called Voxer, which is like a voice messaging app.
Yeah.
And instead of having calls with them, I give them access to me via this voice messaging app, which allows me to like just be way more conservative with my time. I don't have to like block out an hour long to talk to them, but they can still ask me questions, give me feedback on things, and you know, I can answer questions for them and provide support through this app. So pretty much all of my clients get that, and that's going to be throughout the 1 to 6 months that I work with them.
That's incredible. Yeah, I love that, because then it's on-demand audio basically. It's a conversation.
And they can send me a message at 3 a.m. if they want
Exactly.
to, and I can respond to it at like 9 a.m. the following day or
Very
whatever.
cool.
Yep.
Nice. What other tools do you use when you're working with people? Because I imagine a lot of it too, you're not location bound, right? So
yeah, actually, none of my clients are in Petoskey. They're global.
Yeah.
You know, I just signed somebody up today that lives in Manchester, United Kingdom.
Wow. That's incredible, right? So for them, do they need access to a certain amount of tools, or is it a lot of body work? So
yeah, so like my forte is really corrective exercise, which is like exercise to restore your body's movement, joint mobility, flexibility, postural, you know, distortions. We get rid of those, improve posture, improve muscular balance. And in order to do that, yeah, you need a foam roller typically. I have my clients get that if they don't. Most of my clients already have something like this because they've been following my online content for a while and they're kind of already aware of this kind of thing. But a foam roller is like a self-massage tool that you roll around on. I teach people how to use that on themselves. I teach people how to use resistance bands themselves and other self-massage tools. But really, a lot of it could just be done with body weight, you know? So I have them download another app. So I usually have my clients download 2 apps. One is like a support app, which is that one I just talked about with the voice messaging. And the other one is like a training app where I send them workouts that are specific to them that come through on an app that has like tracking features and all things like that set up in it. So basically I set up workouts for them. They click the first workout. In the workout, and a video of me displays on their phone. I show them what to do in a pre-made video, demonstrate the exercise for them, tell them how many sets and reps of that exercise to do, and then they do it on their own.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of it's body weight stuff, but a lot of it's with foam rollers and resistance bands too. And then in terms of like the way I help clients with like other holistic health issues that they have going on, I really just use Google Documents for that a lot, like Google Drive. I'll write up like custom morning protocols for them to go through, meal plans, stuff like that, supplement schedules and things like that. And I usually just use Google Docs for that and send them like, documents.
It sounds like it works really well, even if it was, even if you were in the same vicinity. Say we have people in Petoskey that are interested in working with you.
Yeah.
That still would be pretty easy to just have it be via.
Yeah. I actually talked to a gentleman, I've only been living here in Petoskey for like just over 2 months now.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you, man. But yeah, I talked to a gentleman in Bay Harbor the other day, and it sounds like he's going to hire me. So while I don't typically work with people in person just because my brand is online, to be frank with you, Solomon, I wanted to, I used to be an in-person trainer. So I was a personal trainer and I was working with clients one-on-one for many, many years. And that's very exhausting to do that. Anybody that's ever done that knows how exhausting that is, right? It's a professional service that you're rendering. It involves like spotting people with weights. It's just exhausting if you do that for like 8 hours every day. So I wanted to escape that. And that's why I built my online brand so that I can just start working with people digitally, protect my own time and energy more. But I got to a point where my business is exclusively online now. I sold my facility downstate, and now I'm like stuck behind a laptop, isolated, and that's not really fun for me either. So, yeah, I actually would be willing to take on new clients locally here. Not too many of them, but like 1 to 3, if they wanted to work with me in person. Just because I'm looking to mix it up and just have that in-person contact with clients again. So
yeah, that's a really valuable thing to, offer. I think people should take advantage of it. If you're listening and are interested in taking control of your health, and you live in Petoskey or near here, definitely consider looking up Blake. And I can't give enough credit to your YouTube resources already, though. I mean, your content is there, and you already offer so much value for people to just get started.
Yes.
So
thanks, man.
yeah,
I'll try.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to see how you have developed that into a business that works for you. And like you said, you got to balance it, whether it's not being behind the computer all day, being locked in a different world. But I do think that, I guess I want to cover a little bit of how you took those steps without getting into too much detail. Again, sort of generally, you're working full-time as a fitness coach, time bound, basically. How did you make that transition for people that are interested, that may be in your shoes, that want to turn their life into, or sort of holding that balance? What's the first thing? Or what are some things that,
you want to hear my journey with that, or?
Yeah. Like your journey, maybe just kind of steps looking back.
Yeah.
How you got to where you are.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was a, personal trainer working with clients in person in a gym downstate, just like many personal trainers work, right? I had the clientele of the gym members to work with, and, I would get some clients from just the average gym goers there. And I did that for many years. Started doing that when I was 19. I'm 29 now. So I did that for many years, and then I was like, I want to do my own thing. So then I opened up a personal training studio, which was separate from that gym. And that was a mistake, to be honest, because at that point I had the same responsibilities that I had training clients in person, but I had all these other responsibilities on top of it and more liabilities and risk now. So when I opened up my studio, I didn't have to give a percentage of my, fee that I was charging clients to the gym owner, because I now own the facility, but I had to take care of all these. I had to get people in the door, do all this marketing stuff, do all of this business stuff that I had no idea. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was doing at all. I was 22 when I opened this place. And I always tell this story. I had like a grand opening for my fitness facility. And, I thought I promoted it well with my limited knowledge of business. I gave a press release. I contacted the Chamber of Commerce, had a ribbon cutting and all this stuff. And I even hired some kid off of Craigslist to go into the strip malls in the area and pepper people's cars with little flyers about my grand opening party, put it in their doors and stuff like that. And I thought that I promoted this thing great, right? My mom flew into town for it. She was there. I got it catered. My sister was there. We had hot food set up and everything. And basically 4 o'clock rolled around or whatever, and that was the official start of the grand opening. Nobody showed up. An hour in, one dude walks in, and this guy just was weird as hell, and he just loitered in the facility eating our food, talking to me the whole time, and he was the only guy that came for the rest of the night. And I was just standing there in shame. I was just filled with so much shame, so much negative emotion. I was just why is this happening? I don't understand. My mom's here. I'm embarrassed. I'm shameful. This guy is standing here eating my food, and I just want him to leave. I just want to go cry somewhere. And
I'm so sorry to laugh. I mean, it's funny in hindsight. Right.
Yes. Well, I love telling this story because like it was that day when like I felt like God's fist like came down on me and just like pulverized my ego. And it was just like, well, whatever you thought this was going to be, it's not going to be that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a really hard lesson.
What a great lesson, though.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's how people learn, and that's
Yeah.
how we, evolve and get better. And
Mhm.
I think people could be looking at you saying, wow, you've got it all figured out. Look at all these things that you've got. You have to start somewhere.
Yes.
People don't realize we all started from nothing,
They say that about millennials, right?
Right.
Like I don't like generational cohorts in like trying to like apply sweeping generalities to like entire groups of people like that, but I think it's kind of true what they say about millennials, that like they just like want to like get to the top because they see people at the top and they just like want to get there, and they think it's like an instantaneous like process.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not like that. All those people at the top went through things like this,
Right.
horrendous failures that are brutal
Mm-hmm.
to get through.
Exactly. And didn't stop after that.
Yeah, you just keep going.
You just keep going.
Yeah, and that's basically, so I did that. That happened. I, drove home with my head down that night. It's just complete. I mean, you can imagine how distraught one would be in
Yeah.
that situation, right? So yeah, I was very upset. But I also immediately knew that whatever I did and was planning on doing prior to that failure was not going to work. So I pretty much started my YouTube channel like immediately, like a month after the grand opening. And I started educating people on the things that I learned in the health and wellness world online alongside running that fitness studio.
Okay.
So I was in there training clients one-on-one like all day, and then like in between clients I would like shoot YouTube videos and like upload them to YouTube. And I just pretty much did that. I just was on the grind for like 2 years. And at the time my plan was to support my gym by making these YouTube videos. Little did I know that my online presence and my online side of my brand would eventually become bigger than my brick and mortar, gym would in terms of the amount of people that I could reach, the amount of new clients I can acquire. I just did it to like help out the gym. But then eventually I got to the point where, it just made way more sense for me to just put all of my focus online and close my facility downstate. So I essentially sold the studio and the assets of the studio to another trainer, and I got out of there. And for the last like 2 years, I've been exclusively doing online stuff.
Okay.
Which is how I can move around and, live up here in Petoskey on my own. But yeah, that was kind of the professional journey that I took from being a personal trainer at a gym to where I am now. And I would anybody that's a personal trainer working in the fitness industry, if you're working at like a yoga studio as a yoga teacher for a studio that's already established, or you're a personal trainer at a gym, or you're a health coach working for somebody else, I would just say stay there. Don't don't open a facility on your own and incur all these expenses, because it's extremely stressful. And at the end of the day, like, why are you even doing that? Is it like an ego thing for you because you want to have your own place or something like that? In the end, it's gonna just create more work for you, and it's gonna be way more stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So I would advise people not do that.
Right. Well, in places like here, like Petoskey, I had Tiffany Leno on, who started her own yoga studio, and there's a couple of studios up here, but without she talks about, opening up a studio where there was no demand at first. People didn't understand yoga, right? And so now it is thriving, and there's, a community built around it. But yeah, to go off and do that on your own is such a big, I can imagine.
That was part of the reason too why I had such struggles with that grand opening in the first couple months of business where I opened, because I moved to a city downstate called Chesterfield, which is here in Michigan, but it's a pretty blue collar area. There's a lot of factory workers and stuff that live there, and personal training as a service is kind of perceived as a luxury service.
Right.
A lot of people need it, but it's also perceived as, oh yeah, you have a personal trainer, you must have a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to work with a personal trainer. Because of that perception, it was hard to build that kind of business in a blue collar area. So I can totally relate to, what she said about that up here, not having demand for it.
Yeah.
That really makes you get scrappy with regards to your business skills.
Exactly.
You really have to show what you can do. If you're running a service-based business that there's not demand for in your geography, and you still make that business work, then I have a lot of respect for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
I just realized my shirt was like ruffled up here this whole time.
No, that's okay. I think it's mostly your upper half.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
We can get crazy with this thing. Amongst all of this stuff, I mean, your business, your routines, you're working with clients on a daily basis. What makes you happy? What do you like to do? Like, what do you like to spend your time on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like to be outdoors mostly, right? I was just thinking about this today, actually, because, I was thinking about things that facilitate my feelings of positivity and what brings me happiness. All the things I was talking about earlier. That's why I brought these up, because they're so fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
And I know that being in nature is so like healing for me. It's a great form of exercise. It's one of the most primitive forms and best ways to actually move your body is just by walking around the woods. It's what all of our ancestors did. And it's how we're wired to move. But yeah, for me, it's that. And obviously it's easier to do that in the summer, in the spring. And I just kind of resolved recently to not let the cold get in my way of doing that. So
leaning into the Wim Hof cold exposure.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. I'm going to head over to Petoskey State Park.
Dude, let's do it.
Yes.
I'd love to join you
Sweet. Yeah, we'll bring
maybe
the
on my
dog,
lunch break.
Kate. Go for a walk. See what we can see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you are also a forager of sorts.
Yes.
What are you looking for in when you go out to forage? I mean, I know that's a pretty broad question, but here in Petoskey.
Yeah. Well, in this area, man, northwestern Michigan, there's so much to offer here in terms of medicinal mushrooms and herbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I typically forage for mushrooms, chaga, like medicinal mushrooms, some culinary mushrooms. To be honest, I've never actually found morels because downstate where I am, doesn't seem to be a lot there. I know they are there, but I haven't seen them. I know they're huge up here, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I have some friends that know some spots. Everybody up here that is into morel hunting is real territorial over their spots. So, but yeah, I look forward to doing that with the culinary ones. But most of the mushrooms that I forage are medicinal, so they're like hard polypore mushrooms, like chaga, birch polypore, reishi, turkey tails. These grow all over northern Michigan, and it's pretty cool to have such an abundance of like natural medicine growing on trees here. So I'll find them, I'll harvest them sustainably, and then I will usually extract them at home with like a alcohol extraction, and also a hot water extraction, which is, if you do both, that's called a dual extraction.
Okay.
So I will do both typically.
Separately or from?
You do them. They're separate processes, but you mix the end solution together.
Oh, okay.
So you basically make a really concentrated tea, and you mix that with the alcohol concentrate.
Wow.
And that's a dual extract.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, just because you really opened up my eyes to all, first came over here, you were showing me all the mushrooms you had and put them in coffee.
I'm very proud of them. They're like my little children, my little mushroom children.
And I was so pumped about Sigmatic, the mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
And you totally opened my eyes to make your own, right? If you have mushrooms, how do you make your coffee in the morning?
Yeah. So because I forage these mushrooms and I have the raw mushroom product, I literally will just like put them into a coffee grinder with coffee beans, and I'll grind them all up together. So I have like coffee grounds with, mushroom matter in it, and I'll just put that in my French press and brew it all together.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I like doing that. Some mushrooms you won't really be able to extract the full medicinal power of the mushrooms. But I also cultivate mushrooms like reishi. So, with that, I have like an abundant supply so I can just like be not wasteful with it, but I can use it without, having to be mindful of over harvesting it in nature or anything like that. Cause I'm literally growing it on like sawdust in my home. So, I have a sustainable supply.
Well, for potential clients or listeners out there, where can people find you? Where is a good spot to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, GuerrillaZen.com. If you just search GuerrillaZen Fitness, like on Google, you'll find me. Like we said at the beginning of the podcast, I'm very active on YouTube and Instagram. So if you want to follow me on social media and find out more about me, see more of my educational content, and, just learn more, then searching GuerrillaZen on Instagram and YouTube would be good too. And the only thing is my brand is spelled like Guerrilla Fighter with Zen, like Zen Buddhism attached to it. That's spelled GuerrillaZen. Just search that.
Linked. Yeah.
Yep. 2 R's, 2 L's.
It'll be linked below. For people that, I guess this question might be too broad, but I was going to say, like, what are some really common things that people come to you for? Like, one of the most common things that your clients...
Joint pain. Bad posture.
So people calling about preventative or because it's gotten to the point where they need to work with somebody?
Both. A lot of my clients are people looking to just optimize the way that they move, so they can prevent injury. And a lot of them too are people that have already been injured and have, taken many, many different steps to fix their injuries, whether that's seeing doctors, chiropractors, having surgery, or a combination of all these things. And they can't figure out what, none of those things are providing the lasting solutions that they're looking for. They're all like quick Band-Aid fixes. So oftentimes people that I work with are people that have these things going on. They've tried a million things to fix them and nothing's really worked. And oftentimes, the real reason why these things don't work is because like a lot of them are just treating symptoms.
Have you had any clients that you haven't been able to help or that you've passed on to
Sure,
somebody
yeah.
else?
I mean, not everybody can be helped. Corrective exercise is not a exact science. And I wouldn't say that any coach would tell you that they've helped, to the fullest extent, 100% of their clients. I certainly try my best and I unload my full mental capacity and everything that I've learned over the years studying this stuff on my clients. But I can say that, all my clients get good results, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if they weren't.
Right. Yeah. And no one size fits all, obviously,
Exactly.
and which is obviously not your way that you approach it because everybody's so different.
We talked about earlier too how health is a multifactorial equation, right? So the real challenge for the health practitioner or the coach is helping your client identify those factors that are, contributing to their ill health. And they might be weird things like their relationships. Like if you're working with a client that wants to lose weight and you have them on a nutrition plan, you have them on a, great exercise program, but they're in a toxic relationship and they're being yelled at every night and their cortisol is extremely high and they're stressed out all the time. That's causing them to store body fat. You have to like make them aware of their relationship, and then like, you don't want to cross into like a realm of a psychotherapist or something like that and be like, you need to think about your relationships, but you got to like, find some sort of way to make them aware of that and maybe help them get action. So like, or take action. So the real challenge of a coach is helping clients identify their weak areas and, take action on those areas to transform them into strong points.
Which is amazing too, because I can see people saying, why are you asking about my relationships right now? We're talking about weight loss.
Yes.
And you're like, well,
that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
It's like most people aren't aware of these other ancillary, if we want to call them that, secondary factors that go into health. They're only aware of the superficial things, like diet and exercise.
Right.
But it's not that simple. And that's why the weight loss industry is a several $billion industry. If it was as simple as just eat more salads and work out, we wouldn't have the obesity epidemic and chronic illness epidemic that we have.
And I saw one of your posts just the other day that was talking about muscles that you need to work out and muscles that are not as important. And all the ones that were on the not important list were ones that I just assumed were the most important because they were easy to.
Yes.
So just for people that haven't seen that post, what were those?
Yeah. So that post was about like the top 5 muscles to strengthen to maintain optimal posture and make your body resilient to injury. And these are just like undertrained and weak in the majority of the population, and they are the scapular retractors, which are the muscles in your upper back that squeeze your shoulder blades together. There's 3 muscles in there: the middle and lower trapezius and the rhomboids. Those need to be strengthened. The obliques, which are like the muscles underneath your love handles, both the external and internal oblique, those need to be strengthened in the majority of the population to help stabilize the back and optimize the pelvic alignment and posture, which really has a profound influence on your upper body posture. Your glutes are very important to keep strong, and because they stabilize the low back, the hips, and the knees, and if they're weak, they can't do that, and all those areas are predisposed to injury, and we all can name multiple people with low back pain and knee or hip pain or a combination of all of them.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other one is. It's probably deep cervical flexors, which are...
Yeah, hip flexors, was it?
No, hip flexors...
Cervical flexors.
Yeah, it's probably the muscles in the neck that help push your head back. When those become weak, it's very easy to develop forward head posture. Text neck, nerd neck. That's what it's oftentimes called, or chicken neck. People like, if you look at people's posture like I do all day, you'll find that this is an epidemic as well. People stand and sit with their head forward out in front of their body, and that does really horrendous damage to your cervical spine, your neck over time.
Yeah, well, and you're working on a computer or your phone most of the day, right? And so I feel like you're battling that 24/7. So
I have it a little bit, forward head posture myself. I always tell my clients I've never seen anybody that doesn't have it. We all have it nowadays because we're all texting, we're all on computers, we're all reading books. Students, some of the people that have it the worst, students, chemists, and dental hygienists are 3 of my clients. I have like an inordinate amount of clients that are students, chemists, and dental hygienists. Wow. Chemists are under a fume hood all day. Dental hygienists are looking down. But we all have this, It's really a matter of degree. If you have a lot of neck pain and upper back pain, there's a good high likelihood that your forward head posture is more severe than somebody like myself who doesn't have those issues.
Well, and we're kind of sitting in an abnormal position for an extended period of time. I can feel my posture starting to
I hate this
slack.
couch, to be honest, too. I'm going to get rid of this thing.
I like it. It's
you want this couch?
pleasing.
You can take this couch, man.
How many clients are you working on with at any given time? Is it
online? Because the nature of what I do is so customized, and I do have that, voice messaging support going back and forth with them. And some of my clients actually do like video Skype call check-ins with. If they're at that level of support with me, I keep my level of clients down to like 15, which is actually kind of a lot. So I don't ever work with more than 15 clients a month.
Gotcha. So if people are interested in working with you, sometimes there's not.
I just put them on a wait list.
Yeah.
If I'm full, if I'm at that capacity, I'll put them on a wait list and contact them when I have availability.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show today. Do you have any closing thoughts for our audience? Words of wisdom, calls to action?
No, man. I think we talked about a lot today.
Let's recap.
Yeah.
Hydration.
Yeah. 5 things.
5 things.
5 things. Adequately hydrated. Move every day. Eat healthy organic food. Mindfulness routine, like meditation, and then like being mindful of the stimuli in your environment. This one's so broad, but making sure that you have things, relationships, people, nice smells, nice music, all to invoke a positive emotional response in you. And limit the things and get rid of the things that cause a negative emotional response in you. That will have a profound impact on your health.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.